We all know and love colors like Revere Pewter, Alabaster, and Hague Blue. Let's give some love to the underrated paint colors out there, and that's what today's all about. I have 6 paint colors from 6 different paint companies that deserve way more love. Today's video is brought to you by Mighty Boards. Mighty Boards are our tester boards of choice, which we implore you to use anytime you're about to start a paint project. You don't want to just go buy a gallon of paint without testing it out first. You wouldn't buy a brand new car without test driving it, would you? Maybe if you were crazy. Before you decide on any paint color, make sure you grab some tester paint of whatever you're deciding to use, and then some Mighty Boards, so you can paint those boards and then see a large sample of that paint color in whatever space you're using. They're flexible and also resistant to warping and bending, which means you're not going to see any pesky shadows that may trick your eye into thinking color is lighter or darker than it actually is. We love Mighty Boards on this channel, and if you want to check them out, I'll leave their information down in the description below. And Mighty Boards, thank you so much for helping us out with this portion of the video. Welcome back to the Paint People, everyone. I'm James, and today is all about colors that really need more respect in the interior decorating world. I wanted to shed some light on 6 different colors that really don't get talked about enough, and I've loved these colors for quite a while from all these different companies. I've also made some choices that represent different color categories as well, so you're not going to get 6 different off-whites, 6 different grays. I'm going to keep it a little bit diversified. I'm going to diversify your color portfolio today. So the first color I want to talk about is a deep, dark chocolate brown. And I think chocolatey browns and espresso browns, it's a color that's really starting to get lost in the shuffle of dark navy blues and slate grays and things like that. Chocolate brown adds some moodiness, but it has that lovely familiar warmth that really complements other warmer colors really nicely. And the one that I want to go with is by a company called Valspar, and the color is called Deep Earth. So looking up its LRV, this is a very dark color, right around a 4.621 exactly. And what I love about it is it's just as dark as some black paints out there, but there's clearly some rich earthy brown in the mix that just changes the aesthetic enough so it helps coordinate really well with those color palettes that do incorporate warmer tones or greens as well. Brown and green, really, really fun. I do see chocolate brown more in accent form, whether it's an accent room or especially an accent wall. It's not going to be the best choice for places like kitchens or even bedrooms, I would say, but for a lot of other spaces, for dining rooms, living rooms, family rooms, even bathrooms, maybe not bathrooms actually. Pause. But chocolate brown is really underrated, I feel, and more people should think about it rather than going straight to black or slate gray or navy blue or even deep forest green, which I am a big fan of. Next is a color by the company Behr. Behr paint is available at all the Home Depots all over the world, and I went with an off-white here. Off-white because pure white is overrated to me. I like going with these softer, more subtle approaches to white, and I think Cameo White by Behr White is a great example of that. And that's because it doesn't take things into a traditional creamy off-white, which a lot of colors do, where you just have a bit of white and yellow mixed together. This one almost has a bit of taupe, which sounds kind of weird, but it's like a slight gray, brown, touch of red. It just has a lovely softness to it. And its light reflectance value, which is determining how light it is an 81 out of 100. So it's still quite light, definitely reads as an off-white, but it's not going to be super sterile and stark and overwhelming in a lot of cases. It's a perfect color for walls. You can use it on your trim. You can put it on your ceilings. You can use it on cabinets. Very versatile color. Very underrated. Forget your pure whites, your polar bear whites. Cameo White is one that I would look at. Moving on to Sherwin Williams, one of my favorite paint companies out there. And this color is going to look familiar if you know the color of the year for Sherwin. It's called Interface Tan. And this is a color that I've liked for quite a while now, even before the big red endpoint announcement. What you're getting here is a color that's very similar, but it's a bit lighter, and I think that lightness gives it a little more added versatility and usability. You can use it in more spaces because it's going to reflect more light. Not a ton more than red endpoint. It's about maybe a 10 LRV difference, but that's just enough in a lot of cases. Also, because it's lighter, you don't really see its color hue as prominently. You're not going to get as much of that visible red brown. It's more of a light, dusty, reddish tan, which I think is a little more flexible within the neutral palette. I had to do a double take when Sherwin Williams announced their color of the year because I'm like, oh, is that Interface Tan, my old friend? Oh no, it's Red and Point, which is still fine because they are pretty similar. I just tend to favor the slightly lighter variation. Interface Tan, underrated. Moving on to PPG or Dulux, depending on where you are. This is a color that represents the Plum family of colors. And Plum is not for everyone, especially ones that sort of go a little more into mauve territory, a dusty rose kind of quality. But the color that I really love by PPG is a deep, dark, delicious plum called Red Wine. And this sort of reminds me of like a Terry's chocolate raspberry, like a dark chocolate raspberry. And that's what I love about it. It has this fusion of deep dark brown, a bit of red, a bit of purple, a little bit of a burgundy touch mixed in, and it just gives you a really dynamic color that does fit alongside a lot of color schemes. It complements green really well. It coordinates with anything more red leaning, and if you have warmer neutrals, this is technically a warmer color, so it will sit nicely next to those as well. And it's just a slightly softer alternative to a deep dark red, which can be a little too overwhelming, too passionate, too energetic. This one just has a slightly softer edge, even though it's still very saturated and very punchy. Make some red wine punch. Sangria. Second last color is one of my favorites. This is a color that really inspired what I painted my master bedroom with, and it is the color category cool dark teal, I guess you could say. So it's a play on navy blue, but instead of a blackened deep blue, this one has more of a teal aspect, a slight green undertone, just enough to give it a little bit of oomph, a little bit of excitement. It's called Enchira Blue, and this is a color that I'm obsessed with. I think this is an interesting twist. I know within Farrow and Ball's catalog, Hague Blue gets all the praise, right? It's the ultimate blue to use, but Enchira Blue just speaks to me a little bit more. It's just a little bit different. And that's why I gravitate towards it. That's why I painted it in my primary bedroom, because it had that bit of green, a little bit of moodiness, a bit of a gray quality too. It's a little bit shaded. So when it's given a lot of light, you can really see that undertone pop up. But at nighttime, when you're trying to settle down and unwind, it's going to mellow out completely. Fantastic color. Totally underrated. I know I talked about it before, but outside of our little paint people bubble, this is one that really needs way more love. But I gotta say, this last color is by Benjamin Moore, and to be honest, it inspired this whole video. For years, I said this is the most underrated paint color that I've ever seen. It's one that absolutely never gets mentioned, and I don't know why. Even when I used to work at the paint store, like 15 years ago or something, I always loved grabbing this color chip and just looking at it. It's just a beautiful, beautiful color. And coincidentally, one of the heads of the Paint People team painted his garage with this color recently, and he could not stop gushing about it. And I told him, like, yeah, that's like one of my favorite colors ever. So it's really cool that he found a use for it. I'm not gonna hold you in suspense any longer. The color is called Escarpment. It's CC518. It's a gray, but it's way more than gray. It's a mid-tone. It feels a little bit earthy and like a stone. It has a bit of a purple touch, but also a bit of taupe mixed in. It's just such a complex color. And what's really cool is if you can see it on its color chip, it's a gray color that's paired with a bunch of really warm browns and taupes, and it just pops off the chip so prominently. It has this amazing quality to it where it feels really strong and robust, but also a bit romantic and just serene. It's really hard to explain. You have to see it in person. And that's why you test your colors out, right? These are all the colors, and let me know which one you might use in your next project. But don't forget to check this video out because we go through a really cool color palette that I think you'll enjoy.